Hi guys, welcome in. Decided to basically start up a series of videos in which I'm going to be talking about narcissistic personality disorder, but from the viewpoint of a survivor of. I didn't have it. I went through two different relationships back to back from 2016 till middle of 2018. That were pretty rough, and let me put the disclaimer out now. I am in no way an authority on this. I'm not an expert on it. I do not have a counseling license. I am not a counselor. I have studied a lot of different experts' opinions on it. As a matter of fact, probably a lot of what I will be saying will probably be emulating some of the things that I've learned from Richard Grannon, who I respect as an authority on this, as well as a lot of his peers in the psychology world. Hats off to all of you for the brilliant work that you've done. And I'm not here to lambast or to ruin anyone. I'm not here to hurt anybody through the things that I'm saying, and I'm not going to be calling in any names of anybody as well, because that's not the point. The point that I'm going to be trying to get to with all of this, and with these videos, as I put them out over time, I want to be covering some different related topics that come across with NPD, Narcissistic Personality Disorder, PTSD, codependency, how it affects the narcissist, how it affects the victim or the abuse victim, the different facets that go along with that, family and friends of narcissists, how they cope, how they deal with that situation, basically what the narcissist goes through when they're injured, what happens when the victim is injured, and it's a very tricky and very, I guess the word would be, it's a delicate subject to talk about. Not a lot of people know about it, apparently, and from what I've learned, at least if I remember correctly, anywhere from 3 to 10% of the world's population falls into that spectrum, whether it's borderline personality disorder, NPD, megalomania, which of course that's a very dangerous person, from what I've gathered from learning. But all in all, the reason that I'm even talking about the subject is that I've heard a lot of different experts say that there really is no cure for narcissism or narcissistic personality disorder, and don't get me wrong, like I've learned, narcissistic behavior as opposed to narcissistic personality disorder, they are two completely different animals, and they don't even fit in the same spectrum. All of us have a little bit of narcissistic quality to us. It's powered by the ego or the superego, if I remember correctly. But basically what it comes down to, the reason that I'm putting these out is that I have a different slight point of view, in the sense that I don't believe that everyone, whether they are dealing with mental health issues or they are dealing with any type of disorder due to any type of abuse they received as a child or a teen or as an adult, and if that turns into something that's a personality disorder, I personally, this is just my belief, I think that we're all God's children. I think that we should be loved and cared for, whether or not we have a problem, whether we're aware we have a problem, whether or not we've done someone wrong, or that we are the victim of it. And there has to be some type of forgiveness, and there has to be an awakening too. Narcissists, in part, I think they are aware of who and what they are to an extent. I think there's also another part of them that doesn't really see the effect, the trickling and rippling effect that they have on people that they come in contact with. But do I believe there's hope for them? Yes. But the sad thing is that there's such a very low percentage of them who ever achieve any type of success, and it's only because there's very few that will ever submit to any type of treatment, counseling, whatever you want to call it. And also, from what I understand, a normal, regular day-to-day counselor, relationship counselor, marriage counselor, they don't really have the tools to know how to deal with narcissists, because a narcissist tends to be very manipulative, and very forceful in their goal of wanting things under their control. They refine themselves over time and through contact with others. The narcissist is themselves. They have a fairy tale construct that they start off with. If they were abused at some point in childhood, which is normally the case from on a typical level, what happens is they end up. It starts off with lying to the abuser, which is understandable. If you're a child and you're being abused, and the abuser approaches you with the intent of harming you again, if you don't answer them correctly, or if they ask you a question, the child will start off with lying to. It's to keep from being harmed. It's self-preservation. It's understandable. But the other problem comes in is that later on the child learns how to use lying as a form of manipulation to get what they want as they get older, and they do start taking on certain personality traits that the abuser had imbued them with or had passed on to them through the abuse. And the unfortunate thing also is that when that happens, you're left with a child who is basically had their childhood ripped from them, and their hearts and their minds are taken away by force. And it's a very sad situation. I'm not making light of any of this. My heart goes out to people who that's happened to, and at the same time, you don't wish that upon anybody. You just don't. And it's like I said before, narcissists, even though they are what they are, and don't really know how to fill their own void except through others. And they all follow the same template as well. It doesn't matter what kind of background they've had. When they slip into the narcissistic personality disorder, they all follow the same template, which is it's fascinating, but at the same time it's sad, because you don't want. It's not a quality of life for anybody. And I guess my point is that to drive home the idea, and maybe I'm wrong. I'm right about some things. I'm wrong about some things. I'm a human being, and I'm open to making mistakes and sometimes not having my facts straight. So I'll be the first to admit that. But my hope is that when it comes down to it, that's it. If only one person gets helped by anything that I say, or at least takes the steps to look at themselves and in an objective format and say, maybe I do need to go sit down with someone who specializes in narcissistic personality disorder, or any other, personality disorder for that matter, that they take it upon themselves to do counseling long term, until they and their counselor agree that they've made a breakthrough that gets that to settle down to a safe enough background level to where it's not affecting their daily life or others around them. This is not, again, in any way, I am not an expert on this. I am not a psychologist. I'm not a counselor. I do not have a degree in any of it. I'm only talking from personal experience. I have survived 2 relationships back to back that the first one was not as near as bad as the second one was. And I don't say that to be cruel or indignant or to be ugly towards either one of those people in those relationships. I truly don't. But this is really the only platform I have to address this situation now. And it's my hope that both of those people in the future in their life have some type of epiphany moment where they can wake up and realize that there are certain things that they can do to achieve an actual quality of life that's actually real. And the reason I say that is because getting back to the fairy tale construct, for the narcissist, they go into this mode, okay, we've gone and covered the fact that they lie as children to save themselves. That's understandable. We got to that point. But the second point being is that the fairy tale construct comes in because of what has been taken from them as children. The hearts and minds, the personality has been ripped out, replaced with a computer program that knows how to emulate and how to imitate, but doesn't really understand the full meaning of empathy and giving love and what love is. And some of them have not even been taught how to love. And because of that, they only go with what the abuser gave them. But in this fairy tale construct, if you are a target of a narcissist, and they take a genuine interest in you as being a new emotional supply, what happens at that point is that if it's opposite sex and there's dating involved, in other words, male, female, whether it's the male being the narcissist or the female, they will start in with love bombing, basically telling you how they can't live without you, you're a soulmate, you're the best thing that they've ever found, where have you been all their life, and different stuff like that. And again, I'm not saying any of this to hurt anybody's feelings, and I want that completely understood. But that's usually how most of the narcissists operate in the love bombing part of the new romantic period, if you will. And that proceeds and gets deeper, and they do their best to convince the target that love is real and it's true, and and that there's always going to be that solidity there, that that the trust and all the love bonding and everything's just going to be perfect for the rest of their life. Unfortunately, for a narcissist, is when they get into that mode and they finally realize that, okay, I have this relationship now cemented. I now have this, the target is now thoroughly convinced. That's when everything takes a shift. And it then changes over to the gaslighting. Now, gaslighting, what is that? I've heard, you've heard that term. Some of you have, some of you haven't. The way I understand it is that gaslighting happens when basically they start to get either tired of the emotional supply that you're giving them, or it's not enough in their eyes, and they want to slowly work on getting rid of you, or dominating you, or and taking you from whatever emotional state that you're in, or your normal mental health line of the way you behave and act, and turning you into a codependent where you feel like you can't do without them. And they want to make it a point of letting you know that there's no way that you could possibly have become the person that you are without them, or that you can't take care of yourself, or you just couldn't do things right without them. It's a point of control. And when that happens, there are two phases. There's the love that they will show them, or what they think is showing them, through the control and domination, but also at the same time, as the abuse victim, you're going to receive. It's kind of like, and the only way I know how to give this in like a suitable analogy is like if you were a prisoner of war, and every day your prison guard comes to you, and he's the only one, he or she is the only one that comes to you and takes you out of the cell and gives you exercise, gives you food, but then takes you to this underground tube that they throw you in that's filled with water, and they shove you down in there and they hold you there until you think that you're about to lose your last breath, and then they rip you up out of there. At that point, they saved you. And as a victim of that, you start to rely on that emotional, what's called trauma bonding. And they become both the abuser and the savior at the same time, which is a strange dichotomy. It's a paradox of how that happens. But as the codependent, you become reliant upon them being the savior, and that's what they want as far as their ability to control. If you don't comply, you will be punished. And the other problem is that being that that's their life has become the narcissist's life has become a fairy tale construct, comes along with the thing that they are the star, they are the writer, they are the producer of their fairy tale construct life. And once they love bomb you into that movie that they've created, that fairy tale story, the book, whatever it is, as soon as they cement that relationship, they throw you onto the set of their lives, whether it's their movie or their book. And at that point, you had better know the script, even though they don't give you a script. You better know your part. If you don't know your part, you're going to be punished, or you're going to get kicked off the set. And that's the problem, is that everything that you do from the codependent's point of view at that point, because a lot of the times they turn you into a codependent. Love has a way of affecting people, but when you have narcissistic abuse mixed in with what is perceived love to the abuse victim or the target, at that point things get really out of kilter. If you think you did crazy things when you were in love, you're going to do even crazier things sometimes under the control or the abuse of a narcissist. And the only thing I can tell you from my point of view of being on the receiving end of that, it is very tough. There are times that it's a nightmare. You don't know what to expect. The narcissist can change like 4 seasons in one day. And you may think that you are starting to do something good in their eyes, but you don't know what's going on in their head. And all of a sudden you're not doing anything, or they're bored with you, or you screwed up, or it's all your temperament, and they're going to project themselves onto you and make you feel like you're the bad person, or you're the one who can't function properly in a relationship, or they're going to, there's a number of things, but they are basically projecting on you what's inside of them, and that's the sad thing. All in all, it's a very sad thing for human beings to go through, to be either becoming a narcissist or becoming the victim of one. As I said before, as I go in this series that I'm going to do, and I'm just going to post when I think about doing it when I've got time, I'll touch on different subjects and try to stay on point with just that aspect of whatever I'm talking about. Anyway, if you are and I'm always going to leave this disclaimer, or try to remember to, if you are a victim of any type of abuse, whether it's sexual, if it's physical, mental, whatever it is, if you're a parent of a child that's been put through that, please get them into therapy as soon as possible. If you are a teenager or an adult who has been put through that, don't wait around. And I know there may be some trying circumstances where you feel like you can't talk to or let anyone know, because maybe it's going to really upset your entire world or people in your world. You don't have to tell anybody if you're the victim of that. Go talk to someone. Go talk to a professional. If you are a narcissist, and I think most narcissists are probably aware of what their problem is. If you are one, the world will tell you, and even I'll tell you, that you need help. You need to realize what you're doing to people around you. There is hope for you. There is a God that loves you. There are people that love you, even though you do the things that you do, whether it's in private or behind closed doors or in wide open in public. But either way, there's hope for you too. And that's my message to the narcissists of this world. There is hope for you. You can learn to fill that void. My hope is that you'd fill it with God, and with good things, and that you learn to cease and desist from doing things that will hurt other people around you. And you can. Narcissists tend to be extremely smart individuals. They're usually very good at a lot of things in their life, or several things at least, regardless if it's a job or what have you. But whatever pain was given you that turned you into a narcissist, you don't have to exact it on anybody else around you for the rest of your life. And you also are not entitled emotionally to anything. And the reason I say that is that even though abuse might have befallen you that turned you into a narcissist, that doesn't give you the right to hurt others around you. It just doesn't. You are not entitled. Your mission is to come into this world and serve this world, not the other way around. And once you figure that out and you start doing the positive things for the people around you, not just because it makes you feel good, but because you're not going to get anything from it, but it's going to affect people in a positive way, that's a step in the right direction. It's my hope and prayer for both people who've been abused by narcissistic personality disorder people, or even the narcissists themselves, that somehow or another that God intervenes in your life, that you have a wonderful relationship with Him. You don't have to be a part of organized religion. I think organized religion has kind of missed the mark in a lot of ways. And Christianity in of itself nowadays is that it's bad about shooting their own wounded, and it's a very unfortunate thing. Anyway, that's all I got to say for right now. As I'm learning things, I will turn and make a video or two every now and then. If I have something to say, I'll make a video. If it's a certain topic or aspect of narcissism, I will do that. I feel compelled, after being through 2 back-to-back relationships, to kind of expound upon this, because not everybody is aware of the situation, and they don't really understand until they have been dealt with by a narcissist, and just how devastating it can be. And it is not your typical relationship gone bad, not the typical toxicity, not the typical breakup, not the typical broken heart or aching heart or lonely heart. It's much deeper, and it's much more intricate and twisted at times. So anyway, and if this helps anybody, that's great. If not, then I'm just venting, and that's fine too, I guess. But it's my hope that both victims and abusers, that things can turn around for both, and that there can be some peace and goodness in the world. That's really all I got to say for now. Talk to you later.